So right there, a very inspiring story of old women who've decided to take up the challenge and become educated. Let me start with you, Agnes, on the importance of education when it comes to empowering the woman.
I'm a firm believer in the value of education. I grew up in a very rural village in Meru, in Kenya. And I can attest to what I've seen women achieve just by the basic fact that they went to school and they had an education, and especially going to school up to secondary level. Statistics have actually shown that women who are educated are empowered, but also they empower their own families and communities. So, for example, research shows that when women are in control of family earning, they spend more money on children's education, on issues that advance their family. There's research also that showed that when women are more educated, their families are also healthier. You know, they make better choices about their reproductive health and also about the health of their family. So education really is the key because it opens the mind. It teaches women skills and knowledge that they can apply, but it also teaches them about competence, about networking. But, and I know maybe we'll get this to later, we have seen some progress within the region, the African continent, on education for women. As I mentioned earlier, in places like Kenya, we are seeing gender parity at primary school level, but there are very many barriers as well to women actually accessing education up to now. Just recently, my colleague and I published a report on access to secondary education in Tanzania, and one of the main problems there is issues of sexual harassment and rape of children, girl students, by teachers and by other men when they're coming to school. There's also a problem which is very common within the region of expelling girls who are pregnant from school, or like statistics show very many girls are getting married, but in many countries when girls get married, they are barred from continuing with education. Then we have attitudes within the communities. Like I said, within my own case, what is the value of educating a woman? She's just going to get married, go to another family, so as our family is not going to, you know, is not going to benefit.
It's not an investment.
It's not an investment.
According to some cultures.
Exactly. So, but really the key to empowering women is through education, because that is where really they find themselves, they learn the skills that they need.
All right, Didi, your thoughts possibly on how important education is, and again, looking at as a country, how far we have come and whether we are there yet when it comes to empowering women through education.
Education is, I agree with Agnes, is very important and is a mind opener. Without education, you'll find less doors open for you. So women have to struggle twice as hard to get educated so that they can have these doors opened for them. As a country, because of the free primary education policy, we are seeing more and more girls attaining at least the primary education. But as she said, research shows that girls are more likely to drop out of school at secondary level than boys. And this is because of issues such as early marriage, early pregnancies, and so on. But education is what is important and what is key in this country to uplift women to the level that they are supposed to be.
Okay. Agnes, the importance of men having a role in this whole drive for women, because we tend to feel or think sometimes like it's just driven by women for women. How can men, you know, participate, and how important is their participation?
Very important. Right now we are seeing movements like Men for Gender Equality. We are seeing the He-She campaign, you know. It's very important because whether we like it or not, men hold a lot of you know, responsibility in our communities. They make a lot of the decisions still. We are a very patriarchal society in Kenya, in Africa, in many places in the world. So if you don't bring on board those people who oppose what you want, then what progress are you going to make? And I can assure you that sometimes the opposition is not just because men don't want to see women advance. The opposition is that they don't have an understanding of the importance of letting women have certain freedoms and certain rights. And I'll give you an example. I've done a lot of work on child marriage in the continent. And when I do my research, I will meet with the parents and try to understand from them, why do you want your girl to get married at 14 instead of going to secondary school or completing primary school? And, they'll give their various reasons. I need the dowry, that is her role and all that. But when you start giving examples of this is what education can do for your daughter, these are the benefits for her in future, for her children in future, so for your generation and for you as a parent. You have parents actually say, oh, my daughter will not get married. So sometimes it's the information, having a dialogue, letting them know that this is important. But there are those that women just have to fight because sometimes people refuse to why does a woman need access to family planning, for example? Why does a woman say she has a right to control her own body? So yes, it's very important to bring men on board, and we need men both at the very high levels of leadership. So when we have a man like you hosting a show talking about women, it's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
When we have a president joining the he or she campaign, but also at the community level, the chiefs, those elders in the communities, our own boys in our own families, we need to start talking to them at an early age.
I'll need to cut you short and just get closing comments from Didi as we wind up.
Yeah, what I'd like to say is that women interact closely with natural resources, with water. I'll just take you back to wildlife and the conservation aspect. So they interact with water, with firewood. They're the ones who are more likely to come into conflict with wildlife and with these other natural resources issues. But women's voices are not heard when it comes to creating the wildlife and environmental policies of this country. So women need to be out there. We need to be bold and make the changes we want. We should not wait for men to make the decisions for us. Yes, men are out there, and men support us, and men are willing to help us to get where we want to be. But we should be bold and step up and say what it is we want.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, ladies. That's Didi Wamukoya, who's a wildlife law enforcement manager. Thank you. And Agnes Odhiambo, who's a Human Rights Watch advocate. And just before we wind up, and we continue with our celebration of women by leaving you with images of 12 most influential women figures in the world.